Hi, my name is Borys, and in this video I'm going to show you various techniques of making your drums punchy in Ableton 12. From compression through saturation up to transient shaping, Ableton gives you incredible tools to transform your dry sounds into powerful, big drums. Before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got more content about Ableton Live coming up. If you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out our Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course, and make sure to also check out the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. To see all of that, check the video description. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so I have a bunch of drum loops loaded up here, and let's just play the first one. So this drum break kind of works by itself, but we could add some effects on top of it to make it more powerful sounding. So the first thing we could try is adding saturation, and it's quite easy to do. All you need to do is just increase the drive once you drop the saturator onto this track. And at some point you're going to hear that, especially the louder sounds, they're going to be a bit squashed because we are reaching the ceiling here. And what we could do also is just change the saturation mode. The analog clip sounds a bit softer than the other types. You can choose the base of saturation. You can tweak all of these parameters here, but what's important is that you don't clip basically on this track because we are boosting by 20 dB here. So what's crucial is to just decrease the output the further you go with drive. What you could also do is just map a macro onto the drive and onto the output, but invert the mapping on the output. And actually on the drive, let's say the minimum is 0. So by default, we just get, and the further we go, the lower the output is going to be. And this is obviously a bit quieter, but then you can use utility and just increase the gain over here. So that's one thing we could do. Another is using compression. The most basic compressor is actually the glue compressor in Ableton. So if you're starting out with compression, just try it out before diving into the regular compressor. So we could do something like this, for example. You can probably hear that the transients are now way more pronounced. Basically what we are doing is we have quite a high attack and we have quite a short release and a huge ratio of 10. So we are really squashing this sound with a threshold low enough. So it would sound like this with 100% of tri-wet. And in my opinion, that's a bit too much, but we can always decrease the dry wet here. And that's called parallel compression. You can do this, you can import the full parallel preset from Ableton, which is also quite nice. Many different things can be done with compression. It can definitely be used to add punch to drums. All right, so this loop, let's listen to it. And we're going to explore clipping now. So clipping can be a sort of alternative to saturation, but it's now added to the limiter effect as well. It used to be only available in saturator and glue compressor, but now it's really handy to use it in limiter. Compared to. So soft clipping, you can treat it as sort of an alternative to limiting, and it results basically in a warmer, a bit more distorted signal. Instead of doing digital clipping, as when you exceed the 0 dB threshold on the master, you are basically getting a more analog sounding soft clipping sound, which can be very musical and usually results in much more punch with your drums. And it can be used to control if you have really big or loud transients. So soft clipping is one thing that we could do, But also an amazing effect for adding punch to drums is the drum bass effect. So pretty much any knob here adds punch to your drums. It's an amazing effect. So we could add drive. Already this is sounding punchy. We could add crunch. So this just makes it sound a bit more lo-fi. You can do, for example, a crunchy, overdriven sound and just mix it in. That can also be done. An awesome feature if you're lacking low end. So let's say we have a pattern that sounds like this. If we increase this boom and tweak the decay, you're gonna hear a much longer, more powerful low end here. So especially on things like acoustic drum kits, which wouldn't have a synthesized low end, just adding this boom in the drum bass, that can result in a much more powerful kick drum. But also an amazing feature of this drum bass is this transient knob. And you can probably hear it well even without me explaining. And so what happens is if we go further here, we get a much more powerful attack of every sound. And this is one of my favorite things to do. But then if we go down here, we basically shorten every sound. So all the little decays and releases just basically disappear. So this in combination with the boom, in combination with soft clipping, this just can sound incredibly huge. Of course, I'm exaggerating here, but some of these techniques can be definitely applied. Let's take a look at some other things that we can do here. We have a different loop. Let's just play it. So here the transients are quite subtle, so we can boost them if we want. Already sounds much more powerful, so the drum bass can be a one-stop effect for adding punch. But what else? Also another really crucial technique for adding punch is layering. We could of course layer the kick and the snare. If we do it carefully with EQ, you can just achieve an amazing result. And if we have a drum loop like this and you want to layer your kick and snare, and just go to convert drums to new MIDI track. So what that's gonna do is provide you with a simple 606 drum kit that is playing the exact same pattern from our break. So, of course, we might want to change this for some other kit, but what's awesome is that most of the Ableton kits, they have samples in the same place. So the kick is first, then the snares, then we have hats over here. If we, for example, now take this dry session kit, put it in the place of this digital sounding 606 drum kit, we get this. For example, if we now disable the hats, maybe even the kick, we can just have the snares layered. But now, obviously, on each of these sounds, it would be quite crucial to take EQ and make sure that we are not clashing frequency-wise. Here, I just have some hi-hats loaded up on another drum rack, and I'm just layering that with the drum break. And for example, what I'm doing here is I am sidechaining to this drum break. So with the kicks and the snares, these hi-hats are ducking a bit. So yeah, there are different things you can do with layering, but that's incredibly powerful and can make the textures much richer here. And if you don't want to use the regular compressor, you can also set it up with Shaper. And for example, you can take a trigger track and just trigger the Shaper in different places. For example, if the hi-hat here was triggering our sidechain too much, we might want to resort to the Shaper effect, linked to utility, of course. But for more on that, check out our video on different sidechaining techniques, where I go in depth into creating a sidechain with Shaper. As for the other techniques for today, here we have a simple Lindrum pattern. Nothing special, but what can be done here is we have gated reverb. So gated reverb is an awesome technique from the 80s, which basically involves taking a reverb and putting a gate on top of it and making the reverb really big sounding, but reducing the decay with the gate. So without the gate, we have this signal over here. I am just doing a bit of limiting here with some gain staging to normalize the volume of the kick and the snare on this return track. So this would be our reverb by itself. We could even make the decay longer. If we now put a gate on top of it, it ends up sounding like this. And then if we mix it with the rest, it would sound like this without the gate. Gated reverb can be very powerful, and in my opinion this combination of reverb and gate in Ableton, it's quite clunky to use, and there are some free audio effects that can really do it better. For that, just check out our video on free VST audio effects where we explore different reverbs. Of course, a huge part of making your drums punchy is actually choosing the right drums. And for that, if you already have a drum kit loaded up into Drum Rack, it's really useful to use similarity search here. So you can just click this button right here. And for example, if we wanted the kick to be different, you can just click right on this kick drum. So we have many different Lindrum kicks. So similarity search can be very useful if you're searching for a more punchy drum sound. The last thing for today that I wanted to cover is velocity, because our pattern by default, it sounded just like this. And even if we don't add any of these effects on top of our track, just by adding velocities, it already starts sounding way more powerful. Especially on the kick drum, the differences are quite big, and yeah, it just ends up feeling way more dynamic. This combined with return tracks in the drum rack, combined with some compression, basically makes up for this sound. Alright, I hope some of these techniques of processing drums will be useful to you. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with lots of start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres. And if you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. Make sure to also check out the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. To see all of that, check out the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, write us a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.